the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Let's begin it.
Number ZZ9 plural Z alpha. Number ZZ9. I said I've never seen such hideousness in all my life.
Listen to all this,
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio. Radio with bite.
But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Let's begin it.
Number ZZ9 plural Z alpha. Number ZZ9. I said I've never seen such hideousness in all my life.
Listen to all this,
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio. Radio with bite.
But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
ZZ9 plural Z alpha. Number ZZ9.
I've never seen such hideousness in all my life.
That's Lord, they say.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio. Radio with money.
But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Let's begin it.
Number ZZ9 plural Z alpha. Number ZZ9.
I said I've never seen such hideousness in all my life.
That's Lord, they say.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio. Radio with money.
But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Let's begin it.
Number ZZ9 plural Z alpha. Number ZZ9.
I said I've never seen such hideous in all my life.
Listen to all this,
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
All the second stage tanks now pressurized. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to HBR Talk 244. HBR Talk trudges through more swamps of womeny debates. I'm Hannah Wallen here with Nonsense Annihilator Lauren B. And we really hope our horse doesn't sink into the muck. But first we gotta do what we gotta do. As always, Honey Badger Radio dishes out a smorgasbord of thought-provoking discussions, and as experiences both recent and long past have demonstrated, the provoked thoughts are fighting back. They've made it clear that for people like us, relying on third-party payment platforms like Patreon to fund our work is treading on thin ice, or building our house in the path of a rapidly growing wildfire. In light of this, we strongly encourage our supporters to switch at least their support for us to feedthebadger.com, the most stable way to help us out. And if you want to tip us directly instead of relying on any social media platform's tip jar, the link for that is feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And as always, the same risk applies to our social media platforms, which is why you should further provoke the thought police by tracking our thought-provoking discussions on honeybadgerbrigade.com, where you can find your way to all of our content, as well as a link to feedthebadger.com in the drop-down menu at the top of the page. So, before I get into the video, just to let you know the problem tonight. For some reason, Rumble still has glitches. Like YouTube has glitches that exist now because of all the algorithms and all the crap, all the editing, all the censorship and everything, and some of the other platforms have glitches for the same reason, but not Rumble. Rumble, I think, just has glitches because it's a newer platform and all the kinks haven't been worked out in terms of how it works between Rumble and Restream or Rumble and any kind of broadcast software. So I had to create a new stream. So hopefully, I linked the new Rumble stream on the old Rumble stream. So hopefully people who were trying to watch us on Rumble are watching us right now on Rumble. But that's basically the situation. And I discovered that as soon as I started trying to stream, and I looked and the Rumble stream didn't stream, and there were comments about it being 6 hours long. I'm like, wait, that's an old stream. Like that kind of sucked. So, with that out of the way, are you ready to learn more ways women are victimized by a conversation that excludes men?
I don't know if I'm ready. It's like nails on a chalkboard.
I know. It does. It drives you nuts because, every other sentence, we're stopping it because some of the stuff that's said, it's not entirely clueless, but it is clueless toward men's experiences, and that's frustrating as hell.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, we will go ahead and get started. Last week, we left off at just before 16 minutes. I'm going to go back to 15 minutes and 30 seconds here.
How is it sexism?
So, there we go. That's the very
That's
beginning.
kind of amazing, actually.
Yeah. I know, we are 15 minutes into this monstrosity. So, let's see if I can actually get it to... No, it won't let me move back and forward 1 second at a time. It's 5 seconds at a time, so there we go. But yeah, we're about a third of the way through, just under a third of the way through. So here we go. Let's see what they've got to say.
Abortion is the biggest one.
Of course.
How many of you would
abortion.
identify as pro-choice? Let's do a show of hands for pro-choice.
I feel like pro-choice is pro-life, though. Yeah.
Okay, and folks who identify as pro-life, why do you identify as each?
You've gone from legal, safe, rare to, yeah, I'm so proud, let me beatbox in front of the Planned Parenthood, yeah, I got murder on my mind. The fact that it's celebrated that murdering children, especially in late-term pregnancies, is celebrated, that people are so proud of themselves for mutilating a fetus is just, it blows my mind. And I don't think that you need to be pro-life to even take that stand.
And you said late-term pregnancy.
So, I'm hearing an echo, trying to fix it. But I wanted to address something there because, well, for starters, the myth that's being promoted there, and it is a myth, that abortion is promoted by feminists mostly as a life-saving procedure. That's utter bullshit. Less than 2% of abortions are done. Is the audience hearing the echo? But less than 2% of abortions are done to prevent medical complications from pregnancy. Mm-hmm. So that's the other 98% are all elective, right? And that's like, it's not just that 2%. That under 2% is medical complications from pregnancy, not necessarily all life-threatening. Mm-hmm. And then also abortions in the instance of rape, incest, and other adverse situations like that. So some people are saying yes, some people are saying no. That's weird.
See, I don't know where the echo's coming from, because I don't hear it on my end either.
That's weird. Well, and I can't mute. I wonder. Well, we'll just wing it again when we go through there. But the thing I wanted to point out is laws in regard to late-term abortion. Most of the time, when we talk about late-term abortion, we're talking about either a situation where the baby has already died and the mother is dealing with sepsis, and the term abortion is used because the pregnancy is being terminated, but it's not a situation where the baby is being killed. That would be a therapeutic late-term abortion. Generally speaking, in any other circumstance, there isn't a way to abort the fetus that is going to be less traumatic than delivering it alive. So abortion wouldn't be needed to actually prevent the woman's death in that circumstance. It'd be an incredibly rare thing where, like, a C-section couldn't be done or something like that for health reasons. And you're still talking about, a tiny percentage of abortions. And historically, that was not illegal. Before Roe versus Wade, that was not illegal. We did not need a Supreme Court ruling to legalize therapeutic abortion. Right? That Supreme Court ruling was about elective abortion. And that's, like, this drives me nuts. If abortion advocates cannot be honest about that and cannot argue for legalized elective abortion by arguing for legalized elective abortion and not shielding it with rare medical circumstances that are becoming even more rare, and medical circumstances where abortion is chosen instead of premature delivery and fighting to preserve the life of the baby, then their whole argument is not legitimate. Like, if they can't do that, then the entire argument for elective abortion is worthless and should be dismissed. Yeah. So, like, this that just the idea that abortion is healthcare just dies under that, in my opinion.
Absolutely right.
We can abort that argument. So I'm going to get back into it.
Abortions do not happen.
I made the distinction. I made the distinction specifically because lots of people still celebrate. There are people who, when the laws were passed, actually here in New York, they said, yes, great, yes, I love the fact
but
that.
you need to ask about what are people celebrating, right?
This is a dumb moment. What are people celebrating? They are celebrating the preservation of life in the face of a wanton debauchery around killing it. Like, how can you not know that?
Yeah, it's like this idea that putting yourself above someone else is somehow now the proper thing to do. No, you're supposed to put other people before you. I mean, that's the moral thing to do, I would think, but no, it's just a reversal of that whole thought process. Is it's better for me, so that makes it good. And Shaman King pointed this out in the chat. The people that I think you see who are just really celebrating having abortions, they're really, I don't think is as many people as the pro-lifers would. I don't even want to say that, but it's not as prolific as people would like to portray, right? But it's just the fact that it gets so much attention on social media.
Yeah.
But that's disgusting too. The fact that people are looking at the people who are doing this shit and just, some people look at it and think it's disgusting, but then there's other people who will, even if they haven't had abortions yet or not in a position to have one, they'll look at it and say, wow, look how empowered this girl is, and all she had to do was kill her kid. That's I'll sign me up, if it means my freedom. It's just
it's the thing that really gets me about it is this. Right? Here we are listening to them talk about this in terms of people celebrating and what people believe and what people want and how people feel about women, but when it comes down to the actual debate on the topic, there's a contradiction in arguments that gets used all the time. So we get told that we shouldn't be focused on late-term abortion because it's extremely rare, right? Very few women ever wait that long in the first place to have an abortion, right? But then when there are laws passed that prevent women from using late-term abortion as an elective thing and only allow for it when the conditions of the pregnancy threaten the life of the mother, all of a sudden feminists are outraged and they want to have sex strikes and all kinds of crazy ass. They're protesting and blaming men and introducing mock legislature to regulate sperm and blah blah blah. But they never talk about it in those times. They never talk about it like it's a rare thing. They talk about it like because it's been outlawed that now you can't have a third trimester abortion or a second trimester abortion in some states. Droves of women are just gonna die or off themselves or be abused or be forced into poverty, even though they can give up custody of the child after birth. And so, which is it? Right? Is it extremely rare? Is it so rare that we don't need to talk about it because it almost never happens? Or is outlawing it going to affect droves of women? Because you can't have both.
Exactly.
So,
God, and it really just blows my mind. And I don't know if you remember, there's another video that went around on Twitter it was a while ago. I'm not sure exactly how old the video itself is, but there was a young woman who was visibly pregnant at least 6 months, well into her second trimester. And I guess something happened with the father of the child, so she's mad at him. So she starts hitting her stomach with the hammer.
Oh my gosh.
And kills the kid. Where are these people who say that, oh, nobody's out here celebrating, nobody there's crickets when things like that actually do happen, right? Look at the lengths that some women will go to just to get revenge on
a guy. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and there's literally a "Shout Your Abortion" T-shirt. So, nobody's gonna tell me that they're not celebrating abortion. Like,
yeah,
should I shout my sinus surgery? Like, hey everybody, I had a medically necessary nose job. I'm so proud. Woohoo!
Right.
Like, okay. So if abortion is just medical treatment, then why should they treat it like it's a special thing to be proud of, an accomplishment, an act of rebellion? It's not.
Right.
It's just, and most of the time it's also not healthcare. Like healthcare is the preservation of a beneficial medical condition, a positive medical condition, right? A healthy medical condition, or treatment of an adverse medical condition. Those things are healthcare. Doing something that does neither of those things and causes harm is not healthcare. It's like saying getting a tattoo is healthcare.
Right.
But even though it might make you happy to have one, it doesn't mean it's healthcare. Not that I think making abortion ever makes a woman happy.
No.
But let's go on and see what else they have to say about this.
They're celebrating access. We're not celebrating killing kids. Like that's not what it is.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
So here's the thing: when we're talking about access to reproductive health and to abortion rights, right, and to being pro-choice, listen, that's your body. You do you.
The child is not your body.
Somebody finally said it. Let's go back there. 5 seconds.
Listen, that's your body. You do you.
The child is not your body.
The child is not your body.
Yep.
It's like the most important talking point in the discussion. And that's one that bugs me more than anything about the feminist talking points on abortion. They will not acknowledge what is being done in an abortion, what's being killed.
The body, a zygote, a baby.
It's so scary for me to hear people calling like guns the biggest equalizer for women, but taking their choices away from them at a policy level.
Equating guns with abortion. This is and look at the face on the end there. The lady in the wheelchair. She thinks that that's a gotcha.
Yeah.
Like she literally thinks that's a gotcha.
Right, exactly. But I hate this argument. Please keep comparing women's rights to gun rights. Please keep doing it because you're just making our points for us. But just because you have the ability to possess a gun doesn't mean you can go outside and just start shooting willy-nilly up into the air, because someone could potentially die. Just because you have the right to own this thing doesn't mean that you have the ability to just use it in whatever manner you see fit, irregardless to the results and consequences that happen to anyone else around you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and honestly, if women really want abortion regulations to mirror gun regulations, or rather women's bodily regulations, like if we're going to be real blunt about it, if feminists are going to equate abortion regulation with regulating women's bodies and then say that they wish their bodies were regulated like guns, okay. don't go near your kid's school. You're not allowed. You have to stay 1,000 feet away. Like that's you need a license. You got a license for that uterus. And of course, if you have a mental health condition, there's a whole lot of people that might want you to have a hysterectomy. And then there's also there's also the fact that you might end up with some limits placed if people get their way on how many eggs your ovaries are allowed to hold. And of course, you need to be on some sort of medication to prevent you from dropping those eggs, because that's also a requirement. We could go all kinds of places with this. You have to be very careful where you put the gynecologist's office. You certainly can't put the gynecologist's office any place where it's illegal to have a gun shop.
Oh, how about this one? If you're driving around with it, you're gonna have to take that out and store it in the trunk.
Yes,
let's see you get away with that.
Yep, you got to ride in the trunk, lady. Might as well give up your driver's license. And then on top of that, all those healthcare fairs where people get information about their heart health and their lung health and anti-smoking stuff and their sexual health and all that. Well, there's people protesting the sales of guns at places like flea markets and gun shows and stuff like that. So from now on, you cannot talk about women's sexual health at health fairs. Then they have to be excluded. So, we can keep going on. But keep equating abortion with gun rights. It's totally working, guys. Totally.
Why is that? Having a gun is an equalizer.
It is.
Having rights is an equalizer.
Yeah, that's
Having
right.
choice is
Right.
an equalizer.
Just like a gun.
Having rights is an equalizer. Okay, here's where having the men excluded from the conversation is a big deal. Here we are. The women have the privilege of arguing over whether it's ethical for us to have killing the baby as an escape from parenthood. We have the privilege of debating that without anybody turning around and saying, God, women are so crazy that they shouldn't be allowed to consent to sex. Imagine if men had this debate. Imagine just for a minute if men debated among themselves and argued that women shouldn't have a say in it because they're not part of the male discussion. Because women say that about men and abortion. If men are pro-life, they like when men are pro-choice, and then they speak up, and you don't get told then no uterus, no opinion, right? But imagine if men debated among themselves the ethics of using infanticide as a means of escaping parenthood.
Oh my God. They would shut the whole thing. There'd be cops outside before they could even finish taping.
They'd even arrest the against guys. The guys going, are you crazy? You can't do that. They'd still arrest them for even being in that discussion.
Exactly.
Right? Men can't even talk about not being obligated to pay a woman child support. They can't even talk about having one right that is equivalent to safe haven abandonment in terms of the rights that the parent has, without being equivalent to safe haven abandonment in terms of the rights that are taken away from the other parent when it's done. Because when a woman uses safe haven abandonment, she can do that. She can go to the drop box or the hospital or the police station, the fire station, wherever the designated place is in her city or her area, and she can drop off that baby. They cannot tell her no. She does not have to tell them who the father is. And then it is up to the first responders and the child welfare department that deals with, how do we get this kid into foster care and make sure that the child is provided for and so on. It's up to them to determine whether or not there is an involved father or a father who wants to be involved before they try to put the child up for adoption. And if they can't get that information, like if they can't find a father, if there's not somebody registered as a putative father, if there's not somebody looking for the child, if the mother didn't tell the father she was pregnant, he's out of luck. He doesn't get the opportunity to parent his child. He doesn't get the opportunity to object to his child being given away from him by the mother. And that's a thing. There's no equivalent to that is done to women anywhere in the United States, anywhere in the West. I don't even think there's an equivalent in Eastern nations to that being done to women. So when fathers' rights activists ask for parental surrender, for paternal surrender as an option, they're actually asking for something that is less objectionable to the other partner. The mother still has the option, if she wants to retain custody or to surrender custody to a family member and maintain contact with the child, something that the mother doesn't have to give the father. But men are not allowed to have that debate, are we? We're not allowed to have. They're not allowed to have the debate as to whether or not a man should be able to abandon fatherhood, and they're not allowed to have the debate as to whether or not men should have equal custody rights. Mm-hmm. And those two debates even get used against each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, talk about privilege, being able to shout back and forth at each other about whether or not it's okay to kill your baby.
Like, without a thought, too. Like, it's just...
Well, there's a few thoughts in there. I can see them.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see what they got to say.
Gun rights. And in this country,
41 forms
the
of birth
policies
control.
that are pushed to continue perpetuating patriarchy and anti-women, like taking the autonomy away from women, it is...
It's just killing me because Pearl is sitting right back there saying 41 different forms of birth control. How is taking one choice and not even taking it away, just saying, hey, maybe, listen, you should explore these 41 other options before you decide that murder might be the way to go.
Yeah.
How is that taking choices away from you?
It's a really good question. Like, and in patriarchy, I'm sorry, but most pro-lifers, the majority of pro-lifers are women, not men.
Yep.
Men outnumber women in the pro-choice department, and it's largely because of the no uterus, no opinion narrative, where a lot of men will say they're pro-choice because they think they have to be in order to be pro-woman, and they think they have to be pro-woman in order to be ethical, moral, good human beings, right? Mm-hmm. They got to be gynocentric. So the gynocentric position, they think, is pro-abortion, pro-choice, and that's why more men are pro-choice than women. But yeah, like, it just taking your agency away, taking your, like, that's bullshit. You have all kinds of agency here. Before you get to birth control, you have hello, and where it goes from hello, and whether or not it goes from hello to, hey, let's jump into bed together, and who that happens with. Whether it happens with a man who wants to make a family with you or not, right? You have the option as a woman to not jump into bed with a guy who doesn't want to make a family with you. Mm-hmm. You have the option as a woman to demand that conversation before agreeing to sex. You don't have to be so hot to trot that you just jump into bed with some random guy. It's not necessary. We're not controlled by that. We have the ability and the right to be mindful and of ourselves and be careful stewards of our reproductive health and our safety and our consideration. Like, if you want to be a mom at some point in your life, you are responsible for loving your children before they are ever conceived. You should love your children enough to plan carefully for them. Like, that's a concept that should be taught to little girls. Love your kids now, when they don't exist yet. Love them enough to prepare a place for them. Right? Love them enough to make sure that you're ready when they're born with a home and a family and a sustainable income, resources coming into the home, so that the baby has security and safety, that the whole family has security and safety. But we don't do that. You know, we should tell boys that too.
Yeah.
Right? Love your future children enough to choose their mother wisely. Love your future children enough, ladies, to choose their father wisely. Make things ready first. Give a shit.
Yeah.
Or you end up raising a little shit.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, agency, robbing women of their agency by not viewing the worst and dumbest possible choice that a woman can make as the only choice she has.
Exactly. And so I gotta wonder, is she just tacitly admitting that abortion is just what women choose? It's just what they go to. You know, like that, instead of actually taking the precaution, it's just, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do, and so it's just frivolous. It's just happening frivolously and not so rare and when needed as they like to say it is. It's not. Oh God, it's not healthcare. It's not.
No, it's not any kind of care. It's exactly the opposite. It's anti-mental health care, and it's anti prenatal health care. It's anti-infant care. It's really an unhealthy choice.
And I like you explained it before, and it's another point that these people just you're the only pro-life person that I've heard even in address this, but when a woman is pregnant and then goes through an abortion or has the pregnancy is then terminated or ended for whatever reason, your body goes through shock.
Yeah.
Your body is sitting here thinking, I'm supporting another life, and then when that life is just surreptitiously ripped out of you in a forceful manner, all of a sudden it's like, what happened?
You go through the same mental processes that you go through from a miscarriage caused by an accident, because it is still a miscarriage caused by a damaging thing happening to the body. It's not like there are miscarriages that happen in nature because something isn't right with the pregnancy, and even after that kind of miscarriage, it's hard to explain what it's like from the inside, but there's a sense of loss, even when it's early in the pregnancy. So early in the pregnancy that when you look at what you lose, you can't see baby in it, right? You see, looks like a blood clot, but you go through grief. It's not the same kind of grief that you go through when a person that you got to know and become emotionally attached to because of companionship and camaraderie is gone. But it is grief. It's definitely grief. It's the same feeling. I've had both, and it is definitely grief. But you also have chemical changes that your body goes through. Your body, your brain chemistry changes when you become pregnant, and it changes throughout the pregnancy as you go through different stages. And when you drop out of that, it really is hard on the woman. You go through something very similar to postpartum depression. And postpartum depression itself can happen if you're far enough along during a pregnancy to end up having a miscarriage, right? Or if you are to end up being able to tell it's a baby when you have the miscarriage, I should say. But when you have an abortion, even if you don't see the baby, you don't have the support, and you don't have the understanding of your situation, because abortion advocates and the people who work in the industry gaslight patients. I've had a few friends that have been through this, where they've gone through trauma after an abortion, and they've contacted the center where they had the abortion because they were told to do that if they had ended up with any complications afterwards. And they were told that trauma's not real. You're only experiencing this because you have pro-life people around you telling you that what you did was wrong.
Oh.
So they didn't get treatment for the postpartum depression. They didn't get treatment for one definitely had symptoms of PTSD from the experience. She didn't want to have the abortion. She didn't have it because she wanted to. She had it because she was taken down there by her mother and told by the doctor, if you try to get out of here, we're going to restrain you and do it anyway.
Oh, Jesus.
And so she got no help. Right. So this is a situation where this is very damaging to women, and in addition to the horribly immoral thing that you're doing to the baby, this completely robbing a human organism, a living human organism, of its life before it even gets a chance to open its eyes. You're also harming the mother. And none of these women are going to really talk that much about this. I'll bet maybe some of them did, maybe some of the anti-feminist women did, but I'll bet Vice won't play the comments if they did.
No way.
And nobody likes to talk about what pro-lifers like to call it post-abortion syndrome. But I think it's really just a combination of experiences of postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, and in cases of women who chose abortion under pressure, maybe a little PTSD as well. Because abortion is not a nonviolent act. And it is something that because you're experiencing a bodily trauma and you're experiencing it under duress, it can lead to post-traumatic stress. So, but I doubt they'll address any of that, and I never see pro-abortion advocates address that. And if you try to address it with them, they shut you down pretty quick.
Yeah.
It is heartbreaking to see women pushing that propaganda. It's all brainwash.
It's brainwash because you don't agree with me.
That's great. and of course, the mention of all those different types of birth control is propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
They're not real, guys.
Right.
Birth control pills that have existed since my parents were young, not real.
Mm-hmm.
I've been brainwashed. I have lived deeply institutionalized.
Man,
I have lived under Islam. I'm not interested in any of that.
Oh, there we go. I have lived under Islam, therefore you're brainwashed, you're wrong.
Right. See, so she says she has lived under Islam. So I'm taking that to mean that she is no longer Muslim. So maybe she feels that she has freed herself from this oppressive regime. And that's why she's so damn fiery, right? Like she's just all about empowerment and she's a hothead.
She's angry. I mean, I'm sure. Like, you look at guardianship in Islam, and I mean, I would not want to live under guardianship. As it would be definitely giving up a shitload of freedom. But when you talk to Islamic feminists, when you talk to Muslim feminists that are still living under Islam and still practicing, they want out from under guardianship, but they still want to maintain the benefits of it. They still want their partners or their fathers, their brothers, all the men in their family to be financially responsible for them. They still want the right to, if they earn any income, just keep it for themselves and not be expected to support the family with it. They want to be protected, but they don't want that protection to include limitations on their movement or limitations on their style of dress. And they want to demonize men as these rapey brutes that run around grabbing and taking women as they see fit if women don't hide every inch of their body. But then they don't want to have to live up to that and hide every inch of their body. Right? So it's really hypocritical. And it's a lot like feminism during coverture in the West. Because women had the same issues in a lot of ways where a man was responsible for you financially. You didn't have the financial freedom that a woman has today because a man was responsible for you financially. So he was the steward of your resources. And you can't have two competing stewards of your resources. So if a man is the steward of your resources, you're not. Right? That's logic. And feminism isn't rational about that.
No.
I have all the sympathy in the world for people who live under strict religious guidelines that they don't want to live by, and they don't have the freedom to not practice that religion because they're in a theocracy. But it's not gendered.
No.
Men under Islam have responsibilities that they only have because of the protections that are afforded to women under Islam.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm sure that there are many Muslim men who would like to be out from under those responsibilities. But
they can't say it.
Right? Because that would be misogynistic.
Yep.
And who would have thought the supposedly most misogynistic religion is still gynocentric?
Yep.
But it is.
Like, there's no, like,
You're not
guilt
interested
for
in
me.
human
No, I'm not interested in, like,
living,
thinking that, like, women are doing this really bad thing. Like, in my religion, abortion is actually allowed. If the woman needs it, she's allowed because, it's very interesting how, like, fun.
She just said Islam allows for abortion if the woman needs it. So then the question becomes, what constitutes a need?
Right.
Fundamental. America is like fundamentalist.
This is nothing to do with like even religion. This is very basic scientific human rights.
We're also talking about people not having access to abortion clinics where they're doing the things themselves and they die. Right?
Okay, that's the same argument that gets used to set up sites for people to use injectable drugs. and the result has not been life-saving. So I'm calling bullshit on that. And the coat hanger argument is just flat out bullshit. Right? Don't break the law. If there's a law against something, I don't have sympathy for you when you tell me that breaking the law puts your life at risk.
Right.
Right? There's laws against driving over a certain speed on certain roads, right? You got, like, when I drive home from work, the entire route I drive, the speed limit is 35 miles an hour maximum. I drive past a school. Sometimes, during different parts of the day, I have to slow down to 20 miles an hour. And if I break that law, I put myself and the people around me at risk. Like, that's just... In fact, I go around one curve where there is one of those speed limit signs that's yellow. So you don't have to obey that sign. You don't get pulled over for disobeying that sign. But if I drive my big-ass van around that curve at 35 miles an hour, there's a distinct possibility it's going to tip over and roll into the ditch with me in it. So I slow down because physics doesn't, it doesn't kowtow to the gynocentric narrative. Like, because I'm a woman, you're not allowed to roll my van. Gravity and centrifugal force and shit. No, it doesn't work that way, right? But these guys, like, all of a sudden, breaking a law becomes not a reason to have a lack of sympathy for somebody's injury. Right? Well, don't break the law. And honestly, let me kill my baby or I'll self-injure is probably the most profoundly stupid argument. Because it demonstrates that you are no more mature than a 12-year-old girl.
Exactly.
But look at the intensity on her face. All these women are going to die. They're going to harm themselves and die. No, they're not. They're going to have a baby, and they're going to put the baby up for adoption, or they're going to retain custody. They're going to marry the father, or they're not. But they're not going to die.
Right.
Right, we're also talking about women in the hospital who are pregnant, who have chosen to stay with their pregnancy and have issues at hospitals, and hospitals that are like, oh no, we don't do that.
That's also bullshit.
No hospital is going to say, I'm sorry, you need this medical procedure, but it's against our morals, so we're not going to perform. It's not going to happen. Like, what is she talking about? And the way she's like, they're just gonna get illegal abortions. Like, you would, by the way she talks about it, you would think that you would see dead women in the street who've been trying to abort their babies, like just littered everywhere, right? Like, there's, on every corner there's a dead chick with a coat hanger sticking out. Just couldn't get far up enough. Come on.
Yeah.
She is completely unrealistic. And that's what I would expect from a feminist. Now, the woman in green in front of her, that's the arguing on the pro-life side, would also call herself a feminist. And that, to me, that's wild to me, because I just don't understand how you can be so rational about the pro-life thing and just so off base when it comes to feminism.
I know. It's weird because there are pro-life feminist groups, and of course they blame abortion on patriarchy. Abortion was something that was invented by women. Like, men didn't come along and say, we're gonna teach you how to kill your baby so that you don't have to be a mom. Like, that's something that women came up with. Historically, women did self-injure to cause abortion before abortion was made less dangerous, through evolution of procedures and such. as medical knowledge came along, like knowledge of the anatomy and physiology and so on. But like there's no logic under which you can really blame men for abortion, but they do. They do. But there are pro-life feminists. And of course, I've also noticed that there is at least a faction of tradcon women who blame men for abortion. But I believe most, from the last time I read about it, most abortion doctors, like doctors that have their degree as OB-GYNs who perform abortions are women, not men. And most of the nurses and other personnel at abortion clinics are women. Most of the people who work for Planned Parenthood, feminist women, right? Yeah. So, like, there's no logic to blaming abortion on men. Not in any way, shape, or form. But they do it. But yeah,
it's not gonna stop them.
You're gonna die in a hospital having complications for your pregnancy. No, when you are in a circumstance where you have life-threatening pregnancy complications, the entire floor converges in your room. Like I must have had 12 people come in. Just from the maternity ward. I must have had 12 people come in when I started having serious complications. And I had a nurse that was inexperienced and stupid about things, and she let things go way too long with, like, the problem was that my son was big. I fed him really well before he was born, and he was so big that I couldn't dilate enough to let him out. And I mean, to the degree that he was born with an indentation in the shape of the cervix ring on the top of his head from trying to get out that way. Like when we went into distress, and we both had heart problems. They had a monitor on him, and they had a monitor on me. And my mom went out and alerted the more experienced nurses at the desk and said, call the doctor and everything. Like, everybody came in. And then when the doctor arrived, he was like immediate action. From the moment he stepped foot in the delivery room to the first time I heard my baby's voice was like 10 minutes.
Wow. And
in that 10 minutes, he was able to communicate to me, have a C-section or you're both going to die. And so I had a C-section. Like, that was, like I was given a choice there. Chose life. And that, they did everything that they could to protect both of us. Right? But if the situation had been me or him, this was at a Catholic hospital. They were prepared to try to save me at the baby's expense. And I was trying to speak through vomit to contradict that. And when you have a C-section and the baby's too big to come out, they are pushing and shoving on your gut like you would not believe. But in any case, like, this idea that they just let a woman die because she has pregnancy complications and no abortion is allowed, bullshit. That's absolute bullshit. I'm going to go on with this.
Listen, for whatever reason, you don't need to explain it to anybody, but a lot of times when we're talking about access to reproductive health, for me, I'm thinking about Black, Indigenous, people of color, particularly women and girls who are working class, who do not have even access to, like, proper sexual education.
All right. Remember, this conversation is taking place in the United States, where we have a nationwide public school system that is governed by a federal agency that dictates the curriculum, the educational curriculum in the schools. Right? And sex education in the public school system has been a thing since like the 70s. And it starts in elementary school. Like, I was learning about the female reproductive system when I was 10. So, unless we're talking about kids who are being denied access to the public education system, she is describing a huge failure in the American public education system.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is that not working?
Right. And, you know, and here's the other point that I gotta bring up, because we're talking about children not having access to anything and completely skipping over the parents of these children. Like, okay, so did their mothers not teach them anything? Did their parents not say anything to them about, protecting themselves? It's just, I guess it's just a foregone conclusion. They're gonna go have sex and get pregnant anyway, so we just might as well give them access to abortion because they need it, obviously.
Yeah. Although, if they don't have access to any sex education, how do they know abortion exists?
Right.
Like, who's telling them about abortion, but declining to tell them about condoms and like not abortion, but birth control pills? Who's telling them about abortion, but declining to tell them about spermicidal film, foam, sponges, all the different things, IUDs that I always have to say correctly because it comes out sounding like an explosive device if I don't, which definitely would act as birth control, but only once.
Yes.
But like, how are they learning about that and not anything else? How are they learning about abortion and not learning that you don't actually have to have sex with every guy you date?
Mm-hmm.
That's another bullshit argument, especially like, and I hate to use the current year, but we live in a time period where we have television and radio and internet, and we have phones in our pockets. You have a computer in your pocket that you sometimes use as a phone. Like, we have all of these different ways of communicating with each other. There's no excuse for people to be uninformed about birth control and about how reproductive health works. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
So Richard Bier wants to know what constitutes proper sexual education. I need to make a full video on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that video would probably be about half an hour long. I'm not kidding, because I wouldn't stop at here's the anatomy, physiology, and physical process of gestation. I'd get into what happens with your brain chemistry. I'd get into what happens with your brain chemistry during sex and how it causes bonding and how that affects your breakups and everything. If I was talking to boys and girls, I would start later than they do in the public school system. I don't think we really need to be talking to 10-year-olds about this stuff. I think, quote, sex education for 10-year-olds should be about personal boundaries and remaining children while you are a child, and not trying to do adult things during your childhood, because you have your whole adult life to do those things, but you only have your childhood to be a child.
Mm-hmm.
And there are consequences for trying to be a child after that.
Yeah.
Serious ones. But in any case, yeah, that's a really long discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that gives you the brief overlook. let's see what else we got going on here.
It's the oppressive state of saying, I will force you to have a child even against your own will.
So who's this asshole that's running around forcibly impregnating over 600,000 women a year?
I don't
Because, like,
man, but
he's
that
got to
guy,
be really fucking busy.
he can't keep getting away with this, man. I don't know.
I know who it is. Like, Big Red told us years ago this guy's name. Patriarchy fuckface. That guy is such an asshole.
Right, especially when you're thinking about
I'm horrible.
women and girls who would be forced to have these children, who are already living in very traumatized and scarce situations.
So again, unless we are discussing rape, nobody is forced to be pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a guarantee from rape, but like, it does happen. It does happen. Like, the Republicans that say the woman's body shuts that down are full of shit. Trauma can make it less likely for you to become pregnant, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee prevention. I can attest to that. But
I gotta say, this must be an awkward conversation to have with trans women. The trans women, because they're men going to be women. That's got to be an awkward conversation to have in front of these people, because it's kind of addressed as an elephant in the room there. Because this one wants to be called a woman. You're going to sit there and say, and cheer this person on and say, yes, this is a woman. We have to be inclusive. But then we have the conversation about abortion, and it becomes a little bit less inclusive of a conversation.
Yeah. Yep. It does. Yeah. And it does have to be kind of awkward sitting there through that. Mm-hmm. And the whining, like, I can't imagine sitting there through that and being in that position, that status of you don't know if the women sitting there with them are thinking of them as women or men or trans women. And like a lot of feminists, in particular man-hating feminists, will not acknowledge trans status at all, and consider it to be predatory. But yeah. Like, that whole conversation's got to be weird.
Yeah.
You want to ask about barriers? That's a barrier right there.
Women in poverty aren't able to access the way that
Wait,
women are.
how is this even a thing?
Hello.
Ruh-roh. Hi.
Hey.
Wait, how is there a live show thing? Why is...
There's a live show because it's time for HBR Talk. It's Thursday.
Oh, wait, that does make sense. Wait. It's 1:43
yeah. You probably woke up and saw a live show and thought it was Tuesday, huh?
Oh, shit! Are you live?
We are.
Yes!
Oh, shit, sorry.
No worries, man. It's a perfect interruption to a video of a bunch of women whining about not having the right to kill their babies. So
you can't be talking about the Vice thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Oh God, no.
Yes.
That's what
yes,
I
we
said.
are 18 minutes and 52 seconds into it, and they are whining about abortion right now.
Oh God, no! I should leave now.
So what it really is, you are having a nightmare.
Yes.
Go back to sleep.
Go to sleep, honey.
No, I can't.
No, they're cunts. You.
Now that I've arrived in this space, I have to be in this space.
Well, if you have to be in the space, though, then you have to open the SciTube. So you have to look in the live show chat. It's the last thing in the live show chat, and you'll see the video. Because if you're going to be in here, you have to watch it with us.
Oh, God.
It's going to take him a million years.
No, I know this thing. Are you still doing this thing?
We are still doing this thing.
It's so glad that you keep up with the show, babe. I love it.
Oh, God. You're still... Because you started doing the
three
modernist versus traditionalist thing.
Yeah, we.
I mean, that was the after show. That was the after show.
Yeah, that was the after show.
Well, Brian and anarchist and what's her name?
Allison.
Allison, anarchist. That's what I call.
No. I'm the anarchist. So
no, and Allison is also the thing.
Yes,
but they tried doing this thing in the other show thing, but they couldn't do it.
It's so hard to get through it. I think we're getting every few seconds we're having to stop. We don't have to banana because they say something. They either say something stupid or an argument happens that we take a side on every 20 seconds or so.
Yeah.
Like, this is when you get a room full of women together to argue about things like abortion, it's just a gish gallop of things that have to be addressed.
I've applied my pop shield.
Your pop shield. There we go. Okay.
So I can fucking pop these cunts as much as I can possibly pop these cunts.
Well then,
because fuck these popping cunts. No, I can't believe you're still doing this shit.
Oh yeah.
Given just how poppable these cunts are.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh God. All right.
So are you able to see it?
Yes, I am seeing it now. I am now seeing Sydney's face and how she's unable to fucking.
She can't.
She's got the I can't even
pop
face.
all of these popping cuntable cunts that she is.
All right, here we go. Then I'm gonna push play.
Oh God.
And no matter what happens, rich women are gonna keep getting abortions, and people in poverty are gonna not. And
God, I can't get 10 seconds.
I hate.
I can't even hear what you're hearing, but I know I can guess what you're fucking hearing.
Do you have the side tube open?
I don't need to have side tube open. I'm seeing all of this because I did this.
Oh God. So we're at where she says no matter what happens, rich women are going to keep having abortions and poor women are not.
Yeah, poor people aren't having abortions, despite the fact that a major percentage of the women that have abortions do so because they cannot afford to have another child. So tell me that these are rich women. They're not.
No, in fact, Planned Parenthood targets poor neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm. And
when Planned Parenthood doesn't target the neighborhood, Dr. Gosnell and his ilk do. For the listeners that don't know who I'm talking about, a few years ago there was an abortion clinic that ended up getting it made the news because of a forced abortion that was performed there, and because of a woman who died, not the same abortion. But a woman who died from complications after her abortion. And, I mean, I know feminists will tell you that never happens. This happened. She had sepsis, and she died, and the investigation just turned up this shop of horrors that you would not believe. Like, this man kept trophies from the dead babies. He was doing late-term abortions that were illegal. He was delivering the babies alive and then killing them.
Oh my God.
There were other stories of forced abortion that came out about his clinic, and then it came out that his clinic had been inspected. His clinic had been given the green light by the government worker whose job it is to ensure quality in abortion clinics and safety, and the whole safe legal abortion thing. Like, it was a real shit show, and that's partly what you find in impoverished neighborhoods when you don't find a network of women who support each other in making wiser choices and raising their children and things like that. You get these predatory not agencies really, but businesses like Planned Parenthood, and it's mostly women. Like Dr. Gosnell, I think it was easy for conservatives to report on Dr. Gosnell because he wasn't one of the female abortion doctors. He was male, but women running clinics do this as well. And I mean, it's come out over the last few years that Planned Parenthood has similar problems in some of their clinics, and that among other things, they are selling baby parts. Like, there's a lot of information that's come out there, and it's debatable as to whether people consider that sale of human body parts or not. But in my opinion, it's not really debatable whether it's happening. And like, that was proved, right? So them saying, "Oh, poor women aren't doing this," no, poor women are doing this in droves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is an industry that preys on women's carelessness and women's insecurity.
Yeah.
But we'll go on with it a little bit.
Just disgusting.
The choice, opening it up, the overruling is marginally affecting people of color, people in poverty, way more than people who are going to get access to those abortions.
Actually,
anyway.
So like that, she just spouted buzzword soup.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she didn't say anything new there.
No.
Incorrect. You're the misquote. There's actually more abortions for people in poverty. It's just at a lower rate.
The pained look on her face. She didn't like hearing it.
Why do you think that abortion has been so tied up in this feminism conversation?
It's all just social structure set up around bodies. So if not all women are able to have babies, but it's about the barriers and value that we give to these specific bodies, right?
As soon as we talk about abortion, birth control, sex, sexuality, and sex work, feminists stop talking about women as people.
Mm-hmm.
We're
it's all
bodies
about their
now.
Bodies, right? The bodies. But the baby doesn't have a body, though. That's
No, and definitely not just briefly, if something doesn't have the same genetic makeup, exactly the same genetic makeup as the rest of your body, it's not part of your body.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's pre-elementary stuff there. You should be able to understand that by the time you are out of the 5th grade.
Yeah.
Maybe the 4th grade.
And so if abortion happens in a woman's body, that's why this conversation is coming up.
Because it's feminist because abortion happens in a woman's body.
There's no male input whatsoever.
And apparently feminism owns women.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You said.
Can I say this as someone who's created a non-human thing as someone who's gone so far as to create a non-human thing. I've gone so far as to be like, yeah, wait, I don't know how to say this. That insofar as but you can create as a non-human,
like your puppets.
Well, it's not so much. Well, yeah, and it's that that you I should stop now because this is not a non-human thing.
Well, I think I know. I think I'm kind of picking up what you're starting to say, though. I mean, like, so I play Dungeons and Dragons. It's not the same character creation, but it's story character creation. You get attached to fictional characters, right? And if something occurs that takes out that character, you sort of go through a depression, over that. Like it sucks when your character dies in a campaign and you have to create a new character, like, and you've been invested, all that time, that creativity into it. But women will just throw away a baby. Mm-hmm. Like, that's embarrassing. That's really embarrassing.
Yeah, and it goes beyond that. And I can't even... But yeah, it goes beyond that.
Yeah, someone who's been half of the creative force behind a human thing, behind a living human that I got to watch grow up and who is now a young man. That just... Thinking about it that way... The comparison, right, to how invested people get in fictional characters on television in their favorite show. Mm-hmm. And yet, a woman will just throw away a baby. She'll go have a hitman, hire a hitman, a medical hitman to kill her baby, and not think of it as a tragedy that she's ended a life.
Yeah.
Like, geez, that's embarrassing. Like, I've said before, in many ways, talking about the accountability gap, that women today don't really count as adults based on the standards for personal responsibility and personal accountability that we face. And I've referred back to a Redditor named Whisper that I got to know when I was more active on Reddit, that I saw talking about this in the Red Pill subreddit, where he pointed out that the responsibilities that society does put on women amount to what society puts on a 14-year-old boy. And no further. We're not even shamed if we don't support ourselves financially. Like, without being in a dire circumstance. Like, if we just get married and rely on a man, and we're supported our whole lives by another person's labor, nobody calls us deadbeats for that. Mm-hmm. Like, I could have done that, and nobody would have called me a deadbeat. Nobody would have treated me like I didn't fulfill my full potential. Nobody would have treated me like I was living a child's life. But in comparison to what is expected of a man, that's a child's life. Like a 14-year-old can do that. But when a guy gets into his teenage years, he's expected to start looking for income and dating and is supporting his dating habit and supporting his hobbies. And by the time he's in his 20s, historically, men have been shamed if they didn't find a woman and settle down in their 20s. So that, yeah, like it's fitting women being the way that they are, that they'll just throw a child away like that and don't have any greater responsibility than a 14-year-old boy, less even, in some ways. Like, when I was 14, a lot of the guys I hung out with had paper routes. And when I was 14, the guys I hung out with, if one of them hit me, a bunch of the other ones would have beaten him up. And girls don't have that either. Like, if one of them mistreated me, if one of them was sexually rude to me, right? One of them said something crude and obnoxious to me, some of the other guys would have beaten him up.
Yeah.
Right? And women don't have that.
And I can't believe this is being translated into this conversation, in which Chuckles here is like, she's translating that into, I can't believe you're saying this thing while I'm trying to talk about this thing. So let's talk about this thing. What's Chuckles gonna say?
Oh God, that's a good question. Well, we'll see what happens. But yeah, you just sat me off on a tangent there with that, and it really hit home. Like, geez, it's embarrassing. Not that being a woman is embarrassing, but it is embarrassing what being a woman has become.
Yes. Yeah.
That not all women are able to have babies or pregnancies. Are you saying, meaning like an infertility issue?
A number of reasons. There's all kinds of reasons that not all women are having babies.
Pearl, I saw your hand up. Yeah.
I think women want to sleep around and not have any consequence for it.
Hell yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, she's unfortunately right. There are many women that want that.
Yeah.
Well,
oh my God.
Of all people, it was the
And the lady in the wheelchair.
And the switch person, the flock of seagulls person.
Yeah.
Who's gonna go? Yeah, I mean, you can't have children, and you're the one going, yeah, and that's what sets off all the other women's who are going to go, yeah, jeez. which is gonna set off all the people who can have children going, yeah, and they're gonna have children.
Yep.
Well, maybe they're not. Who knows?
Yeah, one of the people I talk to on Twitter a lot goes by Amazon Eve. She is a trans woman, and she gets a lot of hate from TERFs. And one of the things that she pointed out is TERFs hate trans women because trans women can have sex with men without getting pregnant. That trans women do not have the risk of unplanned or unwanted pregnancy because they cannot get pregnant. And at the other end of it, there is work going into the creation of an artificial uterus, which, if that is ever successful, and the way things are going medically, it's a distinct possibility. That would mean that trans women and men would be able to get pregnant if they wanted to, or at least carry a baby. I don't know how conception would take place. Obviously, it would have to be artificial, but the thing is, that would mean that, trans women and men would be able, just like women, to be pregnant on purpose. They just wouldn't be at risk of unplanned pregnancy. So they would have their cake and eat it too. And yeah, I think TERFs do get pissed off about that.
That's just a fucking abomination. I'm feeling a lot like Carl Pilkington here when he says, we've gone a little bit too far with this science thing, okay? We're just fucking about with too many things. We're just trying to fix too much shit that just doesn't need to be messed with.
Do we need him, eh?
We don't need him.
We don't necessarily. I suppose you could use that to treat a woman's condition of infertility, but
a woman's.
Yep.
Not a man's.
But it will be used for there's no way to avoid that.
Yeah, I know. That's the fucking problem.
And hell, thinking about this, and I've thought about this a lot. Women don't take responsibility. A lot of women don't take responsibility for the baby when they're pregnant. Like, they'll still drink, they'll still smoke, they'll still put themselves in circumstances where they're at risk of injury that might harm the baby. They're all kinds of subject themselves to stressors and stuff that they don't have to, and don't eat right. But they'll use I'm pregnant as an excuse to get out of things. They'll use I'm pregnant as an excuse for special treatment. They don't give the baby special treatment. And you see this a lot, unfortunately. Like, there's lots of women that are very careful, take care of their babies, and are good mothers and everything. But there are a lot of babies that are born with birth injuries that happen because the mother wasn't invested in the welfare of the baby during the pregnancy. Mm-hmm. And I think if we have a medical situation where the person becoming pregnant does so on purpose and is invested in the welfare of the baby and has the protective nature of a man, we might see more babies born without birth injuries, without any kind of babies are born addicted to crack, for fuck's sake. Like, it just, these women are whining about not being able to kill their babies. These women are whining about not being able to throw their babies away. But when women do choose to have their babies, a lot of times, they don't give a rat's ass about the health and safety of the baby. Maybe it would be better if there are men who do the gestation. They might do it better. I hate to say that. Not because I hate to say that men might do it better, but, it is unnatural.
Yeah.
But maybe they might do it better.
Like, maybe now that people understand what thalidomide does to babies, women will understand what thalidomide does to babies. But there's a whole bunch of other things that they're not ready to understand what thalidomide does to babies. And I don't know what I'm allowed to say on YouTube.
I know we
regarding
yes.
Analogies.
Yes.
To thalidomide, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and I think people understand though. Like, you should be very careful as a mother, not to be experimental about what you put in your bodies, because we do know all about thalidomide babies. But unfortunately, a lot of women are very careless about that. And so many women have been careless about that and have been wantonly careless about that it is now acceptable in society to treat women as if they are hysterical if they're not careless about that.
And it's not just going to be 30 years in the future that people start to understand what the fuck happened with the equivalent of thalidomide. It's going to be 100 years in the future when people start understanding what the fuck happened with. I can't even.
With the modern equivalent of thalidomide.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, if you aren't sure what I'm talking about, you can get on Twitter and search Onero's grip and thalidomide. And I've made a comment about this in response to some news that came out recently. So there you go. But yeah, this and again, like I bet these women won't even talk about anything related to that because they're too busy whining about not being able to freely trash their babies.
Yeah.
So here we go.
They're fighting each other to see who wins the biggest loser competition.
Yep.
Instead of, taking personal accountability and being on birth control, they just want to do whatever they want.
the feminists are mad.
You say this like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
You say this like it's a bad... It is a bad thing! Yes, it's a bad thing.
All of the above are bad things.
Women wanting to be wantonly stupid is a bad thing.
Yeah, and part of me is like, she knows that she was just saying it just to get someone's goat, right? Because but it's the fact that she can say it and be so flippant and have a laugh about it.
Yeah.
Again, turn the tables. If that was a man making that proposition, holy shit.
The other women agreed with the woman saying, "Oh, you say that like it's a bad thing." The other women agreed with her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, they're like, "You go, girl."
Mm-hmm.
Like, you gotta be kidding me.
Sounds like you said.
Can I also ask, do you have any care to empower women, or is disempowering women part of your steez?
That pisses me off. Like, that really pisses me off. Right?
This bitch. My fucking god, this bitch.
Oh my god. So, telling women to exercise their personal agency before there is a problem, instead of running damage control in the worst possible way, is disempowering.
Mm-hmm.
That's the narrative. Right? Don't tell women not to step in the hole. Don't tell women to watch where they're walking. Teach holes not to exist. And rally all of society to dig the woman out of the hole at the expense of the people around her.
Right.
Don't you dare tell women to watch where they're walking and use their personal agency to avoid that pitfall, because that's disempowering. Like, what are they being empowered to do?
It's quite telling that they didn't have anyone on the panel to tell this cunt on the right, maybe you should consider some kind of being. Maybe you should some kind of have on the. Sorry, I'm drunk. Maybe you should some kind of have some kind of I can't even think of it.
Are you thinking of ethics or wisdom?
Yeah.
Maybe
Sorry.
both.
No.
Like, look how angry she is at the idea of a woman taking responsibility for herself.
Yeah.
Yes, self-responsibility. Thank you.
Like, look how mad she is. She's got her eyebrows. If she gets any angrier, she's gonna be able to smell her own eyebrows.
Yeah. She's gonna
be able to kiss them.
Yeah.
Hey, jeez, because it was mentioned that women have options to prevent pregnancy. Oh my God, how dare we?
To see this as shame, insult, guilt, need to be right. Okay. Why is it empowering to sleep around?
No,
Why
what
is
I'm
that
saying
empowering?
is, like, I feel like you do, like, take, like, the way you speak on women is very sort of like, women just don't want to do this. Women just don't have this. Women just want to this.
Maybe I should...
She's being mocking, but she's not making a point there.
Right.
And I wonder why you have so much hatred towards women.
I don't hate.
Hatred.
I don't feel quite so bad about being such a moron because she's there going, what's women? And I'm here going, yeah, that's what I can't quite get across. Yeah, because you can't quite get across what you're trying to say either, love.
Well, the best part is that she literally had nothing to say there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she just repeated some things that were in a mocking voice. She just repeated them in a mocking voice. Didn't make any criticisms of the nature of what was said. Like, this is why you're wrong. This is why it's bad. This is what you're doing. Just, you hate women. Like, it's misogyny because you have said these things are true about women. Why is it misogyny if it's true? I mean, the one chick said what? How is that a bad thing?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So she just was gonna stick. My aunt used to say this: if if you feel like you should be doing something and other people treat you like you're illegitimate, there, you just stick your tits out and walk in like you own the place. Yeah. Well, that's what she did. She stuck her tits out and walked in like she owned the attitude. Mm-hmm. And now this woman is like all pissed off because the attitude was described. Like,
right.
Where does that root in? It sounds like
women.
You do.
I am a woman.
That doesn't mean you don't have self-hate.
I could be black and still be internalized.
Exactly.
Oh my God! Now they're on internalized misogyny.
Mm-hmm.
Internalized racism.
Exactly. I'm saying specific things that you're saying, like women don't want to work, women don't want to this, women want to sleep around. Where did you learn these belief systems from?
Because
feminism.
From the women around her. There's plenty of examples walking around right now.
They've been saying these things for 20 fucking minutes. They just agreed to it a minute ago. Where did you learn that women have these attitudes? Well, you all just queened those attitudes. Like, what the fuck? Is this woman like this? Is this her other personality? Like, those ones flip to the back and this one's come forward and didn't hear the conversation?
I don't know, man. I think she had that hijab wrapped around a little too tight for too long.
Maybe.
You just say this thing I just heard from 23 inches from my fucking eardrum.
This needs to be a song. the song.
Okay, the question was, why does abortion keep getting brought up? 40% of women that have had abortions have had 2 or more. 40%. Good for them. So what does that say to me?
Good for them, she says. Oh my God.
The more the merrier. That's, I guess.
Is this a goal? You haven't met your abortion quota. Try harder.
Get those numbers up, ladies. Just got to get those
you
numbers
need
up.
At least 4.
Yeah, rookie stats.
Jeez.
You gotta fill up those cars, man. 10th one is free.
Oh my God. I get this mental image of a punch card with the little right to life fetus on it, and they just take one of those little hole punches and punch out the fetus for every abortion. Oh, we could write our own parody movie.
Yeah.
Say to me, that means you're using it as a form of birth control, and they don't track the 60%.
What kind of abortion?
Can you let me finish? They don't track the 60% to say who in the future has abortion. So to me, it's like, why are they dying so hard for abortion? They want to sleep around with no consequences, even though you have 41 forms of birth control.
Nothing to say to that, though, huh? Nope, just this smug fucking look.
This would be called Duper's Delight.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have a feeling, whether we get to hear it or not, she is about to say something that is a popular lie that people are not allowed to contradict, or they get called a misogynist.
Who does that benefit? I don't think that benefits women.
Doesn't get to
I
say
think
it.
actually that benefits men, because it means that men can have sex with you without consequence. It means that you can sleep with whoever you feel like. Great, but there are consequences because women are the ones who get pregnant and carry babies and give birth.
How does that benefit men? Because when a woman does that, what does she do? She turns around and uses government force to take money from his pocket to support her choice to retain custody. And that is a choice. You don't have to retain custody. Yeah. You have 3 different ways to give up custody without relying on your parents or your siblings. You can let the father have custody. You can agree with the father to go for adoption. Or you can use a safe haven abandonment center, and you don't need his permission for that. You don't even need to tell them who the father is.
Right. You have even more choices on top of the other choices that you failed to take in the beginning before you got yourself into this situation. Now here's more options for you. But being pro-life is taking women's choices away. It just fucking does my head in.
This is where tradcons fail everybody. Because it's not good for women either to play victim of their own choices and blame men. That's not healthy. It's bad for men because it puts men in a terrible position. They're in a catch-22. They're damned if they don't. They're damned if they do. If they want to be responsible for the child, if they want to get married and raise a family together, and the woman doesn't, they get no say in the matter. Right? A man doesn't have a right to become a father. A woman has a right to become a mother. She has a legally protected right to become a mother. She can, the baby's born into her custody, and she can maintain that custody indefinitely, until the child is an adult, as long as she doesn't do something so bad that the state is afraid to leave the baby with her. Right? The father doesn't have that right. He has to fight to have contact with his child. Either after unwed birth or after a divorce. And if he wants to make a family with the mother, he has to convince her that that's a good idea. Women don't have to convince men. Men agree to that even if they don't like it, because they feel responsible.
Yeah.
Which is why you're so lonely, Sydney, because all the men you appeal to understand this thing.
Yeah.
Even though you're such an alpha female, all the alpha males in the world still don't want to get with you because you've successfully convinced them of the situation that is real. And so they're, even though you're 6 foot tall and beautiful, they're not going to get with you because they know of the situation that is real. So, yeah, that's why you're still in the situation you are, Sydney, and that's fine because of all of the things. I I'm saying this in.
It's a tough thing to get women to understand. If you blame men over and over again, if you play victim of your own choices, and then you blame men as the reason that you are a victim of your own choices over and over again, men are eventually going to abandon you for one of two reasons. Either A, they're aware that that's bullshit and they don't want it dumped on them, or B, they buy into that idea and they don't want to hurt you. And what does that do? You end up without any closeness and companionship with men. Great job robbing yourself, right? And destroying the ability of the sexes to relate. Like this is like I said, this is where trad cons fail everybody. You know, men need companionship and men need partnership as well, but they can't trust it. They're like, women are asking, not even asking, demanding that men step out onto thin ice over freezing shark-infested waters, and getting upset when they don't do it. Like, how dare women demand that? Men don't ask anything like that of women. Nothing like that. No. Like, feminists claim they do, right? Feminists act like every date a woman goes on is life or death, literally. Well, that's true for men, you know, but it's baloney. It's bullshit. And this idea that it's somehow men's fault when women make stupid choices and then, you know, like, played stupid games, they win stupid prizes. The stupid prize of not having a dedicated partnership in which to raise your child. The stupid prize of having to decide whether it's a good idea to keep the child with you and saddle the child with your poverty-infested lifestyle, or give up your relationship with the child and the child's connection to their whole family. Like, you can't blame that on a man. You're the one with the uterus. You're the one with the gate into the uterus. You're the one with the word no, right? You're the one that is accepted and protected in her right to say no, and not have somebody come along and say, well, if you have that no taken away from you, you don't get a choice in what responsibilities you take afterward. That only happens to men. You're the one with the full control over the interaction. Don't tell me it's a man's fault if you make a stupid choice and the consequences hit you and your child and your partner and the rest of your family and the taxpayers that are funding the systems that have been created to act as a safety net for you. Because I call bullshit. Yeah. That is absolute bullshit.
Yeah, and I would look at that person like, well, how stupid are you if you allow another person to come into your life and affect you in such a major way, as if you had no other choice. You know, you absolutely did. So you either you're stupid or you're okay with it. Yeah. And in either situation, I have no sympathy for you. This is what you chose, and these are the consequences of your decisions.
I have some sympathy for you, because I had to look 300,000 miles before I could find somewhere who was right for me. And I'm like, yeah, fair enough, Sydney. I guess you had to look 5,000 miles before you found someone who was right for you. Which only goes to show how fucking difficult it is to find someone who's right for you in this state of affairs. It's all rather fucked, I guess.
It can be. I mean, I don't know. I date a lot of people that personality-wise I could have found compatibilities where it would have taken a lot of work to make a relationship work, a lot more than the relationship I'm in takes. Like, every relationship does take a lot of work, but there would have been things to overcome that don't need overcome because I'm married the right guy. But and that happens with a lot of people. A lot of people marry somebody who isn't their ideal partner and still make a long-term marriage out of it. I have family members that have done that were married for 50 years or more. But you have to be, like, that's past generations when people took more responsibility for their own choices. Like, you decide something. Imagine going into I don't know, if Baskin Robbins still exists. There isn't one around here that I've seen anywhere. But an ice cream place like that has a bunch of different flavors of ice cream, and you look at all of them and you pick one, and you get your ice cream cone, and then you cry about that evil ice cream seller that made you pick that flavor. How dare they? How dare they inflict that delicious flavor of ice cream that's not the right one on you? That's the equivalent. That level of stupidity. After you go through and you look at all the flavors, and maybe you taste a few, maybe you don't. So I'm told Baskin Robbins still exists. So all 31 of these flavors, right? And you make a decision, an educated guess or even an informed choice, and then blame somebody else for inflicting it on you. Like, that's basically what women are doing. You have all these different choices with regard to sex, starting with abstinence, which people like to pretend doesn't exist. But there's a good history of people being abstinent until they are in a fully committed marriage.
It's the
not.
meme.
It's a real choice. It exists.
Yeah, it's like the meme. All these flavors, and you chose to be salty.
Yeah. So it's you have that choice. You have the choice of who you're going to be with. You have the choice of when, how long you're going to be together in a relationship before you step into the bedroom. You have the choice of, like, all these different varieties and styles and brand names and everything, birth control, and you have the understanding of all of the potential consequences associated with those choices. It's not somebody else's fault when you settle on a choice and some of those potential consequences land on you. And it's not, genuinely speaking, it is not men's fault when women make those choices with a man and then go out and have an abortion. Men are not responsible for abortion. Men have no control over abortion.
Right. And the other thing that irks me too is that, sometimes in life you have to make hard decisions, right? You don't always get a choice between chocolate or vanilla, right? They're both equally good. You can't really lose, right? It's life isn't always just very soft and cushiony and pillowy.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to have to make a decision that really fucking hurts. That it doesn't seem like the right choice in the beginning, but in the end you realize that it was a better choice for you than not choosing that path, right? But you have to take it, you got to take everything in stride. You can't just say, well, oh my God, God, this decision is too hard for me to make, so I shouldn't have to make it, and it's someone else's fault because it shouldn't be my decision to make. But life doesn't work that way, and it's like they just don't want to take the responsibility for any of the choices that they make in life. So fine. So then you don't get any. You don't get to have gun rights, lady.
Yeah.
Because you can't even take responsibility for the very basic needs of existing as an adult human female.
Yeah.
You don't even get to make the choice between having a cat and having a dog. Because you can't have either of those things. Imagine that.
Women don't get the choice to be adults.
Mm-mm.
We get, we do get the choice. I mean, like, I've clearly alienated a lot of other women by making that choice, right? And I probably am not still as adult as my husband is, but definitely more adult than... Technically, he's 6 months older than me, so, you know, give me a look. It's my old man. But seriously, like, I know I've had ways in which my life has been cushier than his, even though we're in exactly the same circumstances, because he's done things to protect me and provide for me and make my life easier, and I have not ever been able to do an equal level of that for him. You know, and that's humanity right there in a nutshell. Women are privileged to be the protected sex and the provided for sex, and then the sex that gets focused on by men's care and nurturing. Men around me have done that even if they've had no connection to me. I've been stopped on the highway with car trouble, and men who are thinking of their own wives and their own daughters and what would happen to them if it was them on the side of the road have pulled over and helped me.
Yeah, I've
unprompted.
had that happen to me as well. Absolutely.
Right? And they've done it because I'm a woman.
Yes.
So, yeah, we definitely are privileged. So women don't really fully get the choice to be adults in the way men do. We're protected from it. And when women make the choice to be as adult as a woman can be, to be mindful of our choices and how they affect the people around us, and to be analytical in our choices and strategic in our choices instead of feeling our way through life. Other women hate us for it. Like, other women get very upset about that. They take it personally.
Yeah.
And you see it in how they'll treat us in person and on social media, how they'll talk about us, how they'll write about us, what kind of hit pieces we get in the media, you know. And men who support women's choices to try to be as adult as we are able to in the society that shields us from adulthood, they get even more hate. They get threatened. They get their kids' kindergarten doxxed, or they get sent videos of beheadings and told this should happen to you. Like, I've seen that happen to men I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite a situation. But sure, let's blame men for women's bad choices. Like, they give us every opportunity in the world, every protection in the world to make the best choices that we can make. And they give us safety nets so we get a second chance to make better choices the next time. Mm-hmm. And then what happens? Women turn around and bitch about men being to blame for women's bad choices and the consequences that befall. Like,
yeah.
That just pisses me off. And it's sad because the best chance we have at protecting fathers' rights, if you look at any political faction that has any power, is, unfortunately, with conservatives. Mm-hmm. Because they're at least all about fathers' responsibilities.
Yeah.
Right? And you can't protect men's responsibilities without protecting men's rights. But if they're going to do that, they're not going to help us. If they're just going to blame men, they're not going to help us. And so if conservatives want anything to do with the men's rights movement, they need to get their heads out of their asses on this topic.
Yeah, I think that's just another long battle to be fought. Because the conservative party or conservative movement has their own tumultuous goings on happening right now. So they've got to get their stuff in order. I just don't see them really seriously addressing this anytime soon. Definitely not before the next election cycle. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's difficult because you would expect the conservatives to at least be willing to have the conversation, right? And so these are the channels that we should be going through if we want to have this conversation and bring it to a wider audience. But again, like I said, they're too caught up in everything that's happening now with these Twitter files being exposed. People's attention is just being drawn off into a million different places right now. But who knows what could happen in the future? I always like to leave that caveat out because I don't. The conversation is not dead. It's not dead or dying. Clearly, because Vice is still, making money off of conversations like this.
Yeah.
So it's there. We just have to, I don't know, keep beating the drum. I don't know, but it's kind of like what's going on with Steven Crowder. Like we can't keep knocking at the door of the same people who are just, the lights are on, but they're pretending that no one's home, so they don't have to answer the door.
I'm just gonna say it as has been predicted for a long time. What we're seeing now with what's happening with Joe Biden's
the classified
things,
documents.
the classified documents. This is how they're gonna get rid of Joe Biden so that they can bring in Kamala Harris. For the last 2 years of Joe Biden's residency, so that they can have Kamala Harris for the next 2 years, and then they can bring her in by default for the next 2 years, and then they can have her for the next 10 years. Because they can simply rig the next election, and then the next election after that. That's what all this was about.
Yeah, it's very possible. Like the whole goal might be to shake and bake her into office, essentially. And it's very possible that, I do not believe that she can get legitimately elected.
No.
But I don't think that precludes her.
She did it the first time around.
It doesn't preclude her being elected. I've lost my trust in that system. It's hard to trust that system when you're told you're not allowed to question. If you want somebody's trust, you don't hide things from them.
Right.
Right. And I mean, not to empower narcissistic, borderline personality, having women that want to snoop into every little thing you're doing every minute of your day, and you have to call home every 5 minutes, and you can't talk to other women in public, even if it's just to ask about your class reunion and shit like that. But if you sit down next to your partner and they hide their phone screen and shield it from you, that's a bad sign, right? That's immediately you shouldn't necessarily trust there. It's the same thing with a partner that's constantly demanding, can I see it again? Can I see it again? Can I see it again? But won't show you theirs, right? And that's what we've got going on with our government right now. They want to know if you get $600 from somebody, but you're not allowed to know what they're spending your tax dollars on. Right?
Right. Cough, cough, Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah. They want to know every little thing about what you're doing. They want to be able to read your emails and your text messages and your private messages on social media. But you're not allowed to even know what's going on in the January 6 hearings.
Right.
Not all of it.
Right. Elon dumps a bunch of Twitter files and everybody's losing their fucking minds.
Yeah, suddenly they're all freaking out. Right?
Uh-huh.
You're not even allowed to know what the plan is with the United States being the little kid standing next to the other little kid that's poking the bully at the park going, yeah, fight him, I'll back you up, fight him, when we have no business getting involved in that. But they want to know what you're doing every minute of every day.
Yeah.
They want you on camera no matter where you go. But God forbid you walk into the Capitol building, the house of the people. The people aren't allowed in there.
Right.
So yeah, I have no trust for that system. I don't trust our government, and that's why I'm an ANCAP. I genuinely think that our whole country would be better off if our whole system of government just evaporated. But that's not the system we have, and we do have to appeal to the system we have if we want change.
Yeah.
It sucks. But that's where we are. You deal with the way things are while you're working toward the way you want them to be. But like I said, if conservatives are going to ignore female agency and blame men for the unwanted consequences of women's unwise choices, and I'm not talking about children, I'm talking about poverty, I'm talking about a lack of relationship around the child, a lack of family solidarity and stuff like that, the taxation of men across the country to pay for women's reproductive choices, and so on. Like, if conservatives are going to blame men for that, they're not going to help us. So, I don't want to alienate the conservatives in the audience, but this is something that you need to pressure your talking heads on.
Yeah.
They got to get their shit straightened out on that, because they are wrong. Men cannot take responsibility for women. Women have to do that. Women will never grow up if men don't step back and let women fall. And let women learn, let women graduate from the school of self-inflicted hard knocks.
Yes.
You learn a hell of a lot graduating from the school of self-inflicted hard knocks. And it needs to happen.
Yeah.
No more.
For some people, that's the only way they can learn.
Yeah. No more shielding. No more sheltering. No more safety nets. No more Mr. Nice Guy.
Right.
My husband's over there singing on the other side of my monitor. But it's true. Got to do that. Right? Yeah. Tough love. So, but that's it. I think probably we should stop here because it's 9:48 and the after show starts at 9:30. We're late. That's never happened before.
I know.
And this sausage is just going to get longer if I play more. So we'll probably come back to, we're at 21:47. I'm going to make sure I actually track that, and I'll post it in the live show. Nobody needs to open this. It's just so that I know where we are. 21 minutes, 47 seconds. We'll go back to like 21 minutes and 30 seconds or something around there so that, we rehear the last thing that was said and can freak out all over it again.
Yeah.
Next show. But I think I was talking before about us sandwiching this in between other issues. This is important.
Yeah.
Because we're looking at a spectrum of attitudes that are in a lot of ways almost all the same attitude. And our society will not progress until that attitude changes.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think what would also be interesting is to take the male panel that they did and just juxtapose that with what we're seeing in this one.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely some points to be made there as well.
Well, they started out talking about what's a man. Women started talking out. The women started off talking about how women are oppressed.
Yeah,
they define womanhood by oppression.
This was on my mind this morning as I was driving in to work. The way they approached both conversations was so stark in comparison, in contrast, right? Like, this conversation with the women is about feminism and is it still alive, right?
Yeah.
Then you pan over to the men's panel and it's like, what is a man?
Yep. What's a man? What's masculinity?
What is a man? And then you have these guys. Well, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so. It's like the feminist agenda is already established. What do you mean? What is a woman? A woman is whatever we say it is, and that's a woman, and you go, girl. But then you go over to the guys, and they're hard pressed to nail down a definition of what it means to be a man, even to them, even if they're not trying to say it as a generalization for the whole half of society. But just even in their own lives, there were a couple of them that they could not vocalize it.
Well, I also noticed
it's a foreign concept.
They didn't, when they talked about what is a man, they talked about what they thought a man should be, and they talked about it in terms of responsibility to have admirable characteristics.
Right.
Women don't have that conversation.
No. It's a presumption.
Well, it's even worse than that. If you suggest that being a woman, as opposed to being a little girl, but being a woman, being an adult woman, being an adult female, comes with a responsibility to develop admirable characteristics as a part of adulthood, and that there are gendered ways in which women should do that, you will hear howling that sounds like it comes from the bowels of hell.
Yeah.
Like, that is not socially acceptable at all.
No.
Right? That comparison right there. Men feel obligated to be admirable. Women feel entitled to exemption from standards.
Right.
And then they want to know why more CEOs are men, more politicians that are successful are men, more great athletes that are memorable are men. Everything that is a first for humanity, every achievement that is a first for humanity, first to climb this mountain, first to create this thing, first to walk on the moon, are all done by men. Right? They're all done by men because men feel obligated in adulthood to have admirable characteristics, and women don't. Like, they don't even feel obligated to care about other people.
No.
Right? Men do. So, yeah. But we'll talk about that all night. You get me on that, and It's something I'm so tired of, and it's the thing that is holding women back. Women, feminists in particular, but women in general, complain about women being oppressed by their inability to hold certain positions or their inability to rise to certain levels. They're not oppressed, they're failing, right? They're floundering. They're spinning their wheels.
Right.
That's you know,
self-sabotaging.
Yeah. The school of self-inflicted hard knocks, except that they don't get to feel the consequences because they're shielded from them.
Exactly. Yep.
So there goes that tough love again, right? We got to have that tough love. And with that, I think I am going to pinch off the end of the sausage, because otherwise this is going to be, we're going to end up with another 3-hour sausage. So thank you all for listening to the long sausage. Slightly longer than usual. And
I think it's just you and me, and it's just all the three of us.
Yep. Thanks, both of you guys, for coming on. Mike, you really made the show. Honestly, having you come in, that was great.
I don't know how that happened. I
don't know. I guess you must have accidentally hit a button and popped in. But
I just really wanted to talk about this shit because it's politics.
Yeah, but honestly, it was great having you on, and we definitely should do it again.
Yes.
And also thanks to everybody who works in the background to make HBR Talk happen. Good night, all.
Good night.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.